Good morning, everybody. So let's start today's class. So let me start by presenting my screen. So we were talking about statistical learning theory. Okay, so we were talking about statistical learning theory. Okay, and the first thing that we saw, we have still not finished it, but there is something called as probably approximately correct pack learning. Okay, and the setup for this problem is as follows. So you have X, which is feature space, Y, which is this is your input space, right? Input space. Y, which is your output space, 0, 1 output space, which is a classifier. Then you have concept bag C, which is a subset of 2 power X, is a bag of classifiers. Okay. In the notation of pack learning, it is called as concept space. Then we have samples. So from X, you are going to using the samples, the underlying actual distribution Px. You are going to get Xi, Yi. Okay, the Yi's are actually given by a God-given classifier C star. Okay, so so the thing is, you are going to get Xi's from the underlying distribution with Px, but Yi's is a function of Xi's itself, and it is given through a God-given classifier which you don't know. But what you are hoping is, you're hoping 5 is that your bag is big enough to contain C star. C star belongs to bag. Okay, and given all of this setup, the what an algorithm okay, algorithm is set to pack learn the concept C. Okay, so there is an algorithm, there is a concept. If okay, if and only if what happens, since it's a definition, we will write this in different color. So probability that you make an error Cn greater than epsilon. Okay, so the chance that you make like a big enough error, okay, is so this is for all epsilon and delta that you choose. Okay, and there exists corresponding to this an n such that the probability that you make an error more than epsilon is less than delta for all n greater than n. Okay, so intuitively speaking, what we are saying is, if we are given a large number of samples given by the capital N, then you can control how many times you make an error. Okay, so if so, for instance, right, if ERR Cn is less than epsilon, this is like approximately correct. Approximately correct. Okay. So if it is equal to 0, then it is actually correct. But since it is less than epsilon, it is approximately correct. Okay, so delta is a small number. So the probability that you are approximately correct is less than delta, which is very less. Okay, so this is the setup. So now to further this development, we took an example of classifying a medium built person. Example. Classify a medium built person. Okay, so what you have the these are the heights and weights. Okay, then this is the concept that you don't know. Okay, that you don't know really, but what you are given are training samples. So you are given training samples like this, a few training samples here, a few training samples here. Okay, So now, so let me copy this. So this is your problem. So what we are saying is C star, okay, the actual God-given classifier is actually an axis parallel triangle, axis parallel rectangle. Okay. Now this is C star. Now we have to tell what is the concepts that we are choosing. So we have taken two different types of concept. One is C1, which is a collection of all axis parallel rectangles. Okay, and C2, which is equal to all possible subsets of this space. Okay, so now we can see easily that C star belongs to C1 because C star is a axis parallel rectangle. C1 is the collection of all possible axis parallel rectangle. Therefore, C star should belong to C1. Similarly, C star should also belong to C2. Okay, so now these are all the things. The algorithm, what is the algorithm that we have chosen? So it gives a simplest, it gives us a simplest classifier, okay, from the concept. It gives us the simplest classifier from the concept. The concept, we can use this algorithm for both C1 or C2. Okay, simplest classifier from the concept, so that all examples in training data are correctly classified. Okay, so that is the algorithm. So we have everything. We have X, we have Y, we have two concept bags, we have the training samples that are coming from underlying distribution. We have a God-given classifier. We have two candidate concepts. We have a single algorithm with two different candidate concepts. We want to know how does the bag play a role here? Can we learn anything from either of this bag? Is there any hope? Okay, if it is back learnable, that means we are okay, right? So that is what we are going to do now. So let us see what happens when you use this algorithm for either bag. So first is this. So these are the training samples. See, you are not seeing this, even though I have drawn it, right? So let me just make it clear. Okay. So this is C star. Okay, not seen, not observed. Okay, or you can say unknown. Fine. So now this is C1 bag, which is all axis parallel. This is C2. So what do you learn when you use this? So when you use C1, right, the smallest or the simplest explanation is this bag. So let me use a triangle here, a rectangle here. The smallest box that explains all the things is here. Okay. So this is the explanation. So this is essentially what is this? Yes, what is this? Can someone say what this is? In our notation?
CN.
Yeah, yes, that is CN. Okay, so this is CN. This is coming from concept bag C1. So everybody, I hope they remember. And if you look at what is for the other concept, what you will get is basically a small envelope. Okay, like a very small envelope which contains exactly these 3 points. Okay, because this is the simplest in C2. Okay, so this is the smallest envelope here, which contains only these 3 points. That will correctly classify all the training samples. Okay, so this is our CN that you are getting from concept bag C2. Okay. So now, if you want to talk about what is the error, right? So the error, if I can draw it, right? So the error will be, in this case, this is the error. Okay, and in this case, I have to just a little bit draw it properly. So the error here will be this entire box. Okay, so let me write. So error of Cn, that is from the first concept class. I won't write C1 again and again, it will confuse. This is equal to the annular region. Okay, and here error Cn, okay, it is equal to basically what is error Cn? You are measuring what is the probability that Cn minus C star union C star minus Cn. Okay, so this actually turns out to be P of C star itself. So your in the concept bag 2, when you are trying to learn, okay, everything in the positive samples is wrongly classified except these 3 points. Okay, and the probability that happens is, what is the probability that there are two medium built persons itself, because these 3 points are just 3 finite points. Finite points have 0 probability. Okay, so this entire blue region has a probability PC star. Okay, so this is what we get, and now you can see that no matter how many training samples are there, okay, what we have is error Cn. Okay, so no matter how many training samples you have, error Cn is always equal to PC star for all n. Okay, so there is no randomness as such. So even though Cn is random, error Cn is always a constant number. So the probability of this error Cn is greater than epsilon, okay, where epsilon is a number less than PC star, is always equal to 1. Okay, so there is no question of randomness of error Cn. Error Cn is a number, okay, which is PC star always. So if you choose an epsilon less than PC star, probability of error Cn is going to be 1. Okay, this I think could be a potential place of confusion. So let me check if there are any questions here. Okay, so Rajnish is asking. So, okay, so first of all, Rajnish, this annular region, what is the probability of this blue region in the concept bag C2?
So can you repeat it again? What are you asking?
I'm asking that there is a blue region here, right, in this area. So, what is the probability of this region? That is my error Cn, no?
Yes, sir.
So basically what we are talking about is how many times my classifier says it is 1. Okay, Cn is my classifier, C star is the God-given classifier. Okay, what is the difference between C star and Cn? Union, what is the difference between Cn and C star? So since Cn is always smaller than C star, we only need to consider what is the probability of C star minus Cn, right? So let me write that. So this,
Yes,
yeah, so this is C star minus Cn. Okay, so now C star is all this entire thing, blue, full entire box. Cn only contains these 3 points. Okay, so in continuous probability, when you have finite number of points, the probability of that is 0. So if you take P of this, okay, it is equal to P of C star. Is that okay?
yes, sir.
So now I'm saying it's a number. So let us say, let's put some number. So let us say PC star is 0.2. Here is my cursor. Okay. So let us say PC star is equal to 0.2. It will be some number. So let us say it is 0.2. Okay. So now if I choose my epsilon, so now first thing, error Cn is always going to be number equal to epsilon. Is that okay? Do you understand? For all n, error Cn is equal to 0.2. Okay, this is just an example, but do you understand, Rajnish, why it is 0.2 for all n?
Yes, sir.
because you know it this is always for every n, no matter how large it is still finite number of points. Finite number of points always have zero probability in continuous distributions. Okay, so this is the reason why you have this. Now what I'm saying is our algorithm is said to be pack learnable if you can set your epsilon and delta in such a way that you can choose epsilon as small as you like. Okay, you should be able to get the error bounded by some delta, right? This is your choice. So I should be able to choose any epsilon and any delta that I like. Okay, and still I should be able to get this thing to work. So now what I'm doing is I will choose an epsilon which is equal to 0.1. So suppose I do that. Okay, so suppose if I choose epsilon equal to 0.1. So again, this is an example, so I'm writing in a box. So now what is the probability that error Cn, okay, which is always, you know, is 0.2, is bigger than epsilon, which is 0.1. So this is 0.2 is always bigger than 0.1, right, Rajnish?
Yes, sir.
So this will be always 1. So you cannot control this. No matter how large you go, you cannot bring this delta down. Okay, does that make sense? Do you follow? Okay, so let me just check with others. Does everybody follow this? Yes, is it clear? Okay, very good. Fine. So now, so this is one thing is clear. Our algorithm is not able to pack learn when we have 2 power x, which is so because we know, first of all, one important observation is that even though cardinality of C1 is same as cardinality of C2 equal to infinity, okay, we understood that C2 cannot be pack learned. Okay, so let us try whether C1 we can do something. Okay, so that is the next order of business. Okay, so now if you intuitively think about it, right? So now this is here. So when I give you more training samples, there will be a few things that may come here, right? When the few things that come there, what will happen? My original thing, what was this? Next time when I learn with that new CM, I will be getting smaller annular region. Okay, so so as and when you add more and more points, you will get smaller and smaller annular region. Okay, so intuitively speaking, at least with larger and larger n, my annular region will keep on shrinking. Okay, so it seems like you can pack learn C1. So let us formally try to prove it. Okay, just a simple discussion. It will be done in no time. So let's do that. So first of all, if your error Cn is greater than epsilon, what does it mean? So you have got an error that is greater than epsilon. That means your annular region, probability of the annular region is greater than epsilon. Okay, it also means that probability that no so this can only happen if no points fall in annular region, right? So you have chosen n points and none of the n points fell in the annular region. Okay, does that make sense? See, if I had a point that is lying in the annular region, my annular region will shrink. Okay, so what we are saying is, if the error is greater than epsilon, that means the annular region is at least epsilon. All the n points that I have chosen do not lie in that annular region. Okay, does that make sense? Yes. Any
Sir,
questions?
please explain it one more time.
Okay, so see, if at all this annular region has some probability, right? So this is a continuous, let's assume some distribution is there. There is some probability here. So let me say that the probability, like the annular region probability is something bigger than epsilon. Okay, some number 0.5 or something, 0.3, let us say. Okay, so if my annular region has a probability of 0.3, okay, the n points that I have chosen, none of them should lie in that annular region. Why? If there was a point in the annular region, suppose let us say I'm just going to write something. Let me copy this over. Just a minute, I need some space. Okay, so now I'm suppose there was a point which is lying in the annular region. So let us say I get a point like this. Okay, so when I get a point like this, my Cn will not be this. My Cn will change to something else. And what will it change to? It will become this region. Okay, so my annular region will no longer be an epsilon region. My annular region will shrink because now I have added more things. Okay, so if at all my annular region has a size epsilon, no points that I have chosen should be lying in that annular region. Does that make sense? Whoever asked me?
Yes, sir, I am getting now.
Okay. Anybody else has any questions here? Okay, so so let us take that. So now, yeah. So now, what we were saying is the probability that error Cn is greater than epsilon. Okay, it means that none of the points that I chose was actually in the annular region. Okay, as long as that happens, I am fine. Okay, so this should be less than probability that no points fell in epsilon probability region. Okay, is that fine? So none of the points that I have chosen should fall in the epsilon probability region. Okay, so this we know. So if there are n points, I'm saying none of them fell in a particular region of size epsilon. That means everything else fell outside. Okay, all the n points are independent. So this probability is actually equal to 1 minus epsilon to the power of n. Okay. So now, if you look at this, as n keeps on increasing, okay, as n increases, so this is a number less than 1. If I keep taking powers of numbers less than 1, that goes to 0, right? So because I hope that is a easy thing to see. If it is 0.75 or 0.8 also, if I multiply 0.8 once again, it will become 0.64. If I multiply once again, it will become even lesser, and it will keep on reducing. Okay, so that is the idea. So at least now we can see that as you keep on increasing the number of samples, this will reduce. So now we have to do something. So this at least intuitively feels that this is true. So let us now see formally whether we can solve for epsilon and delta. Okay, so let us say what we need to do is that given epsilon and delta, okay, what I need to find, I need to find n, okay, such that, okay, probability that error Cn is greater than epsilon is less than delta for all n greater than or equal to n. So if I am able to show this formally, that means I am able to verify that something is pack learnable. Okay, so now if you choose, let us say, so in order to meet this, I know that this probability is less than 1 minus epsilon to the power of n. So let us try to solve for 1 minus epsilon to the power of n. We will set it to delta. Okay, when we do that, we will get what value of n works. So that will be, n will be equal to ln delta by ln 1 minus epsilon. Okay, so this is my n. So for all n greater than this, I am able to achieve whatever epsilon and delta you give me. I will be able to tell you how many samples you need. Okay, so I hope this discussion is clear. So what did we in summary, what did we do? We had two concept bags C1. We had two concept bags C1 and C2. This was set of all axis parallel rectangles. Okay, and this was power set 2 power x. Okay, what we said is that we can actually pack learn here. This we can do. but we cannot do this. Okay, we cannot pack learn here. We can pack learn this, but we cannot pack learn this. Okay, but we also crucially observed that C1 cardinality is equal to infinity. Even though C1 and C2 both have infinity cardinality, we still can learn pack learn C1, but we cannot pack learn C2. Okay, now there is something that we can say. Okay, even though both the cardinality is infinity, one of the infinities is much lesser than the other infinity. Okay, the way we say that is that for any axis parallel rectangle, okay, in R2, so let us just draw R2. So this is our R2, okay, and let us pick any axis parallel rectangle that we want. Okay, in order to completely specify the axis parallel rectangle, I need to be able to tell what is the coordinates of these 2 points. Okay, so every axis parallel rectangle can be specified by just 4 points. Okay, so that is how this C1 bag is. Okay, in every C1 bag there is an axis parallel rectangle. That axis parallel rectangle you can tell by just 4 points: top right and bottom left. Okay, or if you want top left and bottom right, either way is fine. Okay, whichever way you think makes more sense, but either these two or these two. Okay, if you specify that, you can tell the axis parallel rectangle. Whereas for C2, which is equal to all power set, there is no finite representation. Okay, so even though both sets have infinity cardinality, we were able to learn the axis parallel rectangle concept via pack learning only because we can specify it, we can completely specify it with 4 parameters. Okay, so and this particular n is called as sample complexity. So this is called as sample complexity. Then what is that particular n? So for a given epsilon and delta, how many samples you need is called a sample concept complexity. Okay, so now there are few things that we have to take away. First, C1 has C1 admits, let us say, pack learning with sample complexity n given by some expression ln delta by ln 1 minus epsilon, I think. Okay, and for any epsilon and delta you can do. And then second point is C1 can be specified by 4 points. Okay, so now so even though, so basically now we have some tools that we can have. Okay, so now let us try to understand what we can say. So now suppose I give you another concept C3. Okay, and I'm saying that C3 is pack learning. How do you know whether you should use C1 or C3? Can someone answer me?
Sir, the one for which n is smaller.
Yeah, so for one in which the n is smaller, that is the better bag. Okay, that is one important point. And the number of parameters required to specify this particular thing has some connection with what we will soon see called as VC dimension. Okay, I will explain all these things later, but this is okay, the number of parameters that you need to specify a concept bag is related to what is called as VC dimension. Okay, so the idea is if your VC dimension is small, that means your model is simple. Okay, and if your concept lies in that particular model, then you're in. If your true God-given concept lies in this God-given classifier lies in your bag with a smaller VC dimension, then you need fewer training samples. Okay, so I hope the idea of pack learning is clear. Are there any questions?
Sir, in the first point where we say that n is actually dependent only on delta and epsilon, Here, what happens if the n is not sufficiently distributed? So n is just 2 points, and then we keep dividing the 2 points into half, and like n like that n comes from very small regions.
No, this n, first of all, what is this n saying? This n is telling how many samples should I have from my training sample so that I am able to learn with the epsilon and delta guarantees. Okay, so that is this n. So this n is representing how many training samples I have, right? So if you see the original definition, right? So this is the total error I am making. I am the probably approximately correct for all n greater than n. That is what we are saying. Siddharth?
So for a given epsilon delta pair, we'll get a value of big N, that if the samples are small n is greater than this big N, then we'll certainly be able to.
Yes, we will be certainly able to do it, provided I can show that my algorithm is back learning.
Yeah,
Okay,
but even in the rectangle case,
yeah,
if the points are actually very close to each other, like they are not distributed, like there's
okay.
some reason of distribution, but we
Okay,
learned
okay.
the reason of distribution when
Yes,
we saw
yes.
the
No,
region.
no, no. Let me answer your question. So what you're asking is, if I draw samples, right? So, okay, it's a good question. So let me just try to write it a little more, explain a little more. So what you are saying is, so this is, I drew this example, but what if instead of this, I had got something else? So let us say I actually got these 3 points, right? And then when I look at the error Cn, it is a much bigger region, right? So
Yes,
now
sir.
my error is this
In the
region.
extreme case where they are really close to, like they are
Yes.
not.
So that is where we have, see, error Cn. Let me write that. So first of all my training sample Sn, right? These are all drawn from same Px. So first, getting this probability itself, like very close by, that number is small. 1. Okay. So first of all, Cn is random. Okay. So sometimes it will do bad, sometimes it will do good. So what that means is error Cn, okay, will be small sometimes, and sometimes error Cn will be large. Okay, but all your training samples are drawn from Px. So probability, once you try to take what is the probability of error Cn greater than epsilon, right? It is a more fairer thing because you are looking at all possible things and taking an average. That is what probability of error Cn means. Do you understand, Siddharth?
Yes, sir. I think I didn't take into account that they also come from a probabilistic, like
Yeah. Cn is random, right? So what you said is definitely possible. You may be able to, you may pick up points which are very close by, but the chances of that happening is low. So over time, it will average out. Okay.
Oh, so ultimately the probability is limited then. Okay.
Yeah. The probability is what is so sometimes, so this thing will have a few times where it is actually less than epsilon, a few times which is actually greater than epsilon. So when you take the probability of each of this happening, that is what we are saying. That is what we are bounding. Okay.
Yes, sir. Got it.
Okay. Anybody else has any questions? Is everything clear? Can I quickly check? Yes.
Sir, just a small point.
Yeah.
The rectangle can be specified by just 2 points, not
Yeah.
4, right?
2 points, but each of the 2 points has 2 coordinates, right? So what did I say? So
Okay.
I said 4 parameters. Okay, very good. This is not 4 points, 4 parameters,
Okay.
or 2 points. Okay, 2 points. Each point has x1, x2, y1, x1, x2, and other one also has x1, x2. So this is x1, this is x2. So the points are x1, x2, like left bottom, right, left bottom. And so you understand, right? Rohit,
Yes, sir.
it's
Yes, sir.
clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
Upper right. So something like this. Any other questions? Everybody, is it okay? Yeah. All right. So this is what is pack learning. So now one important point that we realize. Okay. So even if we are noiseless, we still have problems. Okay. So even if we are noiseless, even if there is a God-given classifier which is actually doing things, if you choose a class with high VC dimension, such as if you use a neural network or something indiscriminately, then you are going to be royally losing out, okay, because you don't know how well it will do. Okay, so how exactly we will solve these problems, we will see at a later point, but at least you understand what's the problem. Okay, so now so we will now do in order to get towards VC dimension, we have to now relax the path learning assumption a little bit, and we have to go towards what is called as empirical risk minimization. So let me just copy this things, and then we will move on to a new worksheet.
Sir, what is the full form of VC dimension?
So Vapnik-Chervoninski dimension.
Okay, sir.
All right. So now this is what we start with the path learning. Now what we will do is we will take each of these things and we will simplify it. Okay. So now few things are very unrealistic. So let me just scale that, like write that. First is this is very unrealistic, right? So assuming that your classifier is noiseless, okay, is unrealistic, and assuming that there exists something that is best is also unrealistic. Okay, God-given classifier is also unrealistic. Okay, so both of these things are unrealistic. So expecting that there is something which is noiseless is unrealistic, and expecting that thing lies in your bag is also unrealistic. So these two assumptions is what we will do away with. Okay, and we will try to develop this learning theory in that space, and that will give us, it will lead us to the VC dimension, and we will look at how VC dimension plays an important role in choosing your algorithm, choosing your hypothesis bag. Okay, so that is where we will go next. So we will relax these two things. So now what we are going to go towards is what is called as empirical risk minimization. Okay, so let me just define all of these things in empirical risk minimization framework, and we will discuss how things will change. So in empirical risk minimization, you anyway have X, which is your input space. Okay. You have your Y, which is your output space. Fine, and then so input space, output space is there. Then of course we have your H, okay, which is your hypothesis set. Hypothesis set, okay. So it's a collection of functions which go from your input space X to your actions. Okay, so again we have seen in Bayes classifier time, when we discussed in Bayes classifier, action can be same as Y, or it can be something else. Okay. So basically, what does your hypothesis set contain? It contains several edges, okay, and each edge goes from X to A. So this is what is equivalent to what was originally the concept class. Now, fourth point, you are given Sn, which is equal to xi, yi, okay, I equal to 1 to n. Okay, here Sn is IID distribution from Px, y. So now what we have is we don't have y which is given from X directly. What we have is a joint distribution. So now an example, I think an example will be useful here. So an example, so if you remember the thing that we did in the very initial stages of this course, you had this example of men and women heights, right? So then we looked at, so this was our X's, and then we had this kind of a structure. And then, so if you draw points from here, so you will be drawing points from this joint distribution. Okay, so whatever comes from this women class, so let me represent in this. Okay, so these are all the women points, and when you draw from men, let me put it in all the blacks. Okay, so you will have points like this, right? So this is how. So the points around the mean, there will be more concentration. So Sn is drawn from this underlying thing. I hope the idea is clear. So what we are saying is y is no longer a function of x. Okay, so if you wish, I mean, we have seen this again when we did this. We can write this as using Bayes rule as p of x into p y given x, where y given x is the distribution of y, okay, for a particular x. Okay, so sometimes, see, if you take an x here, it's most likely that it is coming from this Gaussian. If you take the x here, it's most likely it's coming from this Gaussian. Okay, so this is our Sn, and of course Sn is random. So then what was God-given classifier before? Now we have something else, which is so now with this we need to define a few more things which is specific for this. So in order to compare two different hypotheses, I need what is called as loss function. Okay, so loss function L goes from, it's a function from a particular y and what action you took to R. Okay, so this is the loss, and then with the loss function you have the risk of a classifier. These things you have seen before. Okay, so this is the same thing that we have seen in Bayes classifier. It is the expected value of loss of y comma h of x. Okay, so this I am defining it as R of h. So this is the risk of a classifier. Okay, so now as usual, whenever we have an expectation like this, so I always ask you, what is the expectation taken over? So would somebody like to volunteer and tell what is the expectation taken over here? Which are the things random here?
Sir, x and y.
X and y. Okay, very good. See, because h is not random, if you see here, right? H is like given x, it gives an action directly. There is no probability here. So H is a deterministic thing. So the thing here is x and y. Okay. So this is the risk of a classifier. So now the thing is you don't know. So whenever you are doing machine learning, right, you don't know the px and py given x. If you knew that, then you can use Bayes classifier and you are done. There is nothing that you can easily use the posterior and you are done. If you knew all the distributions, we are done. You know that is the best you can do. So since we don't know that, we cannot even compute this. Okay, so this we cannot do. Okay, so we have to, even though this is a number that exists, but how do we know whether that is true? We don't know any such things, right? So what we do, instead of using this R, what we will have is what is called as empirical risk. Okay, so basically for a given data sample, I can estimate what is Rn. So I'm putting a hat because this is a random thing and it is taken on the n samples of a particular h. This is nothing but 1 over n summation L yi h of xi. Okay, I going from 1 to n. So again, we have seen several loss functions. So examples, let me give you some loss functions that you already seen. Example, this least mean square loss, right? So that we have seen, like we called it J of W, if you remember, 1 over n summation. What did we see? We saw yi minus W transpose xi whole squared, right? We have seen this. So here L is square, the difference square. Okay. So this is, we have seen least mean square losses, we have seen that is same as the empirical risk. Okay, so we cannot compute this. Okay, we cannot compute this, we can compute this. So this is called as okay, all of you pay attention, very important. This is what is called as out of sample performance. Okay, this is out of sample, and this is in sample or training sample performance, in sample performance. Okay, what we do in a learning algorithm is we will try to choose algorithms which are minimized here. Okay, so coming to that, point number 6. Okay, so we are still not done. So point number 6, what we have is we have some h star okay, which is equal to argmin over h belonging to h r of h. See, this is what we would like to learn. Okay, h star is what we would like. Correct? See, now there is nothing like what is the best God-given classifier, no such thing. So given your bag, you want to choose one that is the best out of sample performance. That is what you would like. Okay, but we cannot do this. Why? Because we don't know how to compute R of H itself. So how do you find, how do you solve an optimization problem where you don't even know R of H? So instead what we do is we learn what is Hn hat of star, Hn hat star, which is nothing but argmin, okay, h belonging to h. It's the global minimizer of Rn hat of h. So this is what we learned, right? This is what is the role of learning algorithm. So let me just recap all the things that we have seen. So there is an input space, output space, all of these are standard. There is a hypothesis set, okay, which is like collection of your this one, like collection of your like classifiers equivalent to that. Then you have SN, which is the random IID samples, which is coming from joint distribution. Then you have the loss function, which is like you have seen least square loss and things like that. You have what you would like to minimize is out of sample performance, which is here. But what you can only minimize is empirical risk, which is your training sample performance. Okay, so we want to know, can we, if you are given large enough samples, so what is the central question? Can we go from Hn hat star towards H star? Okay, so this is the this is your data, like your classifier learned from data. Okay, data minimizer, right? Your data error minimizer. Okay, and your H star is your true minimum. Okay, so can we go from Hn star towards H star when we have large training samples? If we are given more and more training samples, can we go from Hn star towards H star? Okay, so why is this an important problem? If I choose a hypothesis bag, okay, which does not give me this guarantee, but every time it gives me zero training error, is that good? No, right? You will not be able to go towards the true minimum. Okay, so true minimum, again, you have to remember, true minimum is as far as the bag is concerned. Okay, so there are a lot of things that we have to juggle now. So particular bag has a minimum. Can we at least go towards the minimum in the bag? Okay, first, whether the bag is appropriate depends whether you can go towards that. If you can never reach towards that, what is the point? Okay, so are there any questions here in the setup? Yes.
So that thing that where you were explaining empirical risk of classifier and empirical risk, can you repeat?
Yeah, sure. See, so you have so now this empirical again in this particular example that we have taken is again 0 1. Okay, so let me just repeat. Okay, so this is still 0 1, but let me just say, so if you are given n training samples, okay, if I am putting some kind of an empirical risk, so this is what it is, right? So let me just take an example. So you are given some points here and some points here. Okay, let us say, let me just draw this box. Okay, so Shivam, it was you who asked, right?
Yes, sir.
So now, Shivam, this is what is the true. Let us say this is the true thing that minimizes. This is how actually the whatever amongst all the. So my hypothesis bag. Okay, so let's write that. So my hypothesis bag is basically all the half spaces. Okay, so I am only shown 6 training samples, but if I had shown you the true underlying distribution and if I had chosen the best H star, okay, so this I cannot pick because I don't know how to do this, right? Because I have only 6 points, I will not be able to identify this. But if I had given you infinite samples and if you had trained on that, you would have got this. But since I don't have all that much training samples, I have only what is given, so I will probably learn something like this. Okay, so this is my, so given the training samples, the algorithm that I am using, whatever it is, let us say it's logistic regression, okay, that gives me a hyperplane like this. So let us say that is Hn star of H. Okay, so this minimizes the like the loss, so 1 over n summation whatever the loss, so loss of xi comma h of xi, sorry, yi comma h of xi. So is this okay, Shivam? Do you understand this?
Yes, sir.
So now what we don't want Hn star, what we want is this. We want this because this, if I give lot of samples, this is what is the true minimizer. So it is not minimizing this. In fact, this is minimizing. Okay, I'm not minimizing this. I'm actually minimizing the expected value of this. Shivam, do you understand this? This is like, if I give you all the points, if I give you all the distributions, this is what I will be choosing. But I cannot get all the points. I have only training data that I am given. So I will choose this Hn star.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is the error I make. So let me just draw the error for. Okay, this is like how much I am differing from what I should be. So this much. This is the region where I am totally wrong. This region is correct. Okay, so any other questions you have, Shivam? Is it clear what is? So this, what is the risk of the classifier? Is this? This is the risk. The thing that you would like to minimize is with the expectation. What we cannot directly compute because we don't know the underlying distribution. What we can compute is empirical, like we can do this. Okay, Shivam?
Yes, sir. It's clear to me.
Okay. Any other questions from the class? Is everything clear so far? Yes. Yes or no? Okay, so now one thing that I would like to remind you of, which is called as law of large numbers. Okay, so let me take a proper pen. So this is the first assignment that I had given you. Okay, so one thing that you might have seen, I don't know if you remember, but if you recollect, what we had done was when we take, if you want to find expected value of some random variable z, okay, we do one thing. What we do is we look at sample mean, right? Nmin is equal to 1 over n summation zi, I equal to 1 to n. Okay, so we observe that Mn becomes like it approaches expected value of z as n increases, right? This we had seen in the problem that problem set that I gave you in first assignment. When you take more and more samples, you will approach the true thing, right? So what does that mean? So that means that probability that this, formally speaking, it is given by what is the thing that we are saying is actually Mn converges in probability to expected value of z. Okay, so that the definition of that, the meaning of that is probability that Mn and your expected value of z is more than epsilon, okay, is less than delta. So for all epsilon delta greater than 0, okay, not greater than equal to 0, there exists an n such that, okay, so probability that you are deviating more than epsilon is less than delta. So law of large numbers and pack learning are very similar. Okay, so probability that you are making you're estimating your estimator, this is your estimator, it is deviating from this, is greater than epsilon, is less than delta, as long as you choose samples more than n. Okay, so this is what is called as convergence in probability. Okay, so now with that idea, one thing that you can see is that if you take Rn hat of some h, what is this? So this is 1 over n, okay, summation L of xi, L of yi comma h of xi, right? This is Rn hat of h, and then we know R of h is equal to 1 over n, expected value of, right, with respect to x and y, L of y comma h of x, right? This is what is, so this is the data error, okay, this is the data error, this is called as data error, and this is called as the true error or the out. So this is in sample performance, this is out of sample performance. Okay, so now if you look at these two things, this is very similar like expected value of z, and so expected value of, so now you can see that expected value of Rn hat of h is nothing but Rh. Okay, so now one thing we can see clearly, Rn hat of h converges to R of h, okay, in probability. Why? Because we are estimating the same quantity. This is true for any h in your hypothesis pattern. This is always true. This is guaranteed by probability theory. Okay. So what we are saying is that if you, whatever h you pick, okay, the empirically whatever you obtain will be same as what is that, it will go towards what is the true risk of that classifier. Okay, as long as you take enough number of samples, that is true. Okay, but this is this what we want? Okay, is this what we want? Not really, right? What we want is are the actual thing that you are choosing, like this is what you are choosing at every n, you are choosing some the best classifier. Your learning algorithm is choosing some best classifier here. The true risk of that classifier should go to the best classifier in your bag. So this is what we want. So anyway, so don't worry if you don't understand this part. Okay, this we will come back tomorrow, not tomorrow, on a Thursday. But this is this I hope is clear. Everybody should at least in today should at least follow this. I hope this is clear. Okay. So this one, what we need, we will describe in the next class. Okay, but what we already have is this. Okay. So I hope this is at least clear. Yeah.
Could you repeat that once, the first box? I didn't understand it.
So now, see, we have, do you remember when we did the experiments like this? So we took some kind of an sample estimate. We take number of samples from this, and then we look at as n increases, it approaches E of z. I had made you do this thing in probability assignment 1, right?
Yes, sir, I remember this.
Yeah, so it will be like a bell curve, and when you increase, it will become sharper, right? This you remember.
Yes, sir.
So whenever you, so expected value of mn is actually, so if this is mu, so expected value of mn is going towards mu, right? This you remember, right? Even though it's not mu, it will be some variation around the mu. So this expected is this, variation will be some, variance will be sigma squared by n. This is what we had seen. Now what I'm saying is, if you look at, if you replace whatever was there in mn, if you replace that with L of yi xi, this is the same thing, right? See, one is expectation. I'm looking at, instead of directly taking expectation, I'm taking samples and looking at the average, right? Everything is same. This is exactly same as this, right? So this is an estimator for R of h. Do you follow?
Yes, sir.
So that is exactly what I'm saying, right? So this is, so now since law of large numbers holds for many in a very general setting, okay, it should be the case that as Rn as n increases, Rn hat of h should approach Rh, right? It must be true because this is law of large numbers. The more you take samples, you get better and better estimate for R of h.
Sir, I didn't understand this because, sir, our hypothesis could be very simple, right? So it could be like in its form very different from what it actually should be.
Okay, so that is a good point. Okay, so it's an important confusion that you have got. Okay, so what it should be was relevant only in back learning. Okay, in back learning there was a God-given classifier. So what it should be was only in back learning. Now what we are saying is forget about what it should be, because we don't even know there is something like that. So given a bag, I have something which is best for me in that bag. Okay, so that is H star. Okay, so this is like not God given. This is here, if you see, this thing here is what is the best in my bag. Okay, first thing first. Okay, so this is what it is. Now I'm not even saying what is the best in the bag. All I am saying is for a particular edge that I have chosen from my bag, the empirical risk is going towards the true risk for that particular edge. It is not, I'm not saying that this is the best that is possible. I'm not even saying that.
Sir, I have a small confusion then. The H star, it is the one that minimizes the, it is the one which we would have got from, probabilistic approach, Bayes rule, right?
H star, okay. So
it
that is not
minimizes the actual risk.
No, not true, because if the base risk, what you're actually saying is if you knew Px and Py given x, you will learn Py given x. If you knew the joint distribution, you could get this. So that is the base error. But see, the loss function that I have chosen may not be the best to retrieve this back. See, the back that I have chosen.
H star doesn't minimize the loss function. No, H star just minimizes the actual risk, R of H.
Yeah, but R of H, again, the choice of the loss that I have used may not be appropriate, right?
Oh, okay. So,
yeah.
So the loss isn't appropriate because of that. This H star is not the same as what we would have.
Yeah. And in fact, my bag may not even contain the posteriors in itself. See, if I'm able to represent the posteriors in some way, then it's okay. Then then your bag may contain that. That is the best. But I may not even have that. There are two issues. The loss function may not be suitable. The bag may not be suitable. Okay, but I'm not even worried about all that. I am saying you choose whatever bag you want. You choose whatever loss you want. Can you find the best in your bag for your loss? Forget about what is the true God-given loss. That is not what we are even worried about. Okay. Yes, Siddharth.
So, sir, this R of H, that also we are trying to minimize only with respect to our bag.
To our bag, yes. So R min, if you see, I have written here, right? So I have written here is belonging to this. I'm only worried about my bag. Okay.
Okay, sir. So, sir, now can we again go back to that original point?
Yeah. So now here whatever I am making statement is actually I'm saying with respect to estimators. So I am fixed x. Both the h's are same. Okay. Very important. So h is fixed. So okay. Otherwise, both h's are same. So I am saying this is like the estimator. This is your estimator. Okay. This is what you would like to estimate. Okay. This is what you would like to estimate. This is what I don't know. This is my estimator. Okay, so now if I take sample mean, I will be able to estimate the true estimate, right? If n tends to infinity, this is what we have seen. You have done this already in the assignment.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is exactly that. There is no difference if you look at all the things that are there. 1 over n is there, and then you are taking L, yi, hi. So this is exactly the same, right? Do you see the thing, what I'm saying here?
Yes, sir.
So first box is clear, right? So it converges in probability to R of H. See that?
Okay. Yes, sir. But R of H can also be really bad. Like
it can be bad. So we are not even worried about that. So you have captured the main problem of this thing. We don't want that. What we want is the true risk of whatever you are learning. So this is what you have learned. Right? Is that okay? This is what you have learned. Okay, R of this is your out of samples performance. R is like out of sample performance. Okay, of what you have learned. And what you want is this should be same as out of sample performance of your best hypothesis. Is that okay? Best hypothesis in your bag, first of all. So this is what we want. We want whatever we have learned, the true risk of that should be the same as the best thing that you could have anyway hoped to obtain. This is what we want. Is that okay, Siddharth?
Yes, sir, now it's clear.
Okay, all right. So that's good. So I think your question would have also answered many people's other questions as well. So let me stop here. So if anyone else has any questions, you can stay back and I will take up that. Otherwise, I will see you on Thursday. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Bye. Thursday or is it Thursday? I don't know. Whichever is the next class. All right. Bye.
Thank you, sir.